Welcome everybody to the December 2, 2022 meeting of the Memphis Astronomical Society. I don't have a microphone tonight, so hopefully you all can hear me. I'm just going to do my best to project, and then our speaker, of course, is on Zoom tonight, so you'll be able to hear him clearly. But want to welcome all of you, wish you a happy holidays. Hopefully your season's off to a good start. Last meeting of the year, we've had another good year, 2022, got back to in-person meetings. And I think we've upped our game with this venue. Once again, we're at the beautiful Rhodes College, thanks to Ann, and offering this room. So again, welcome. I think we got a great program for you guys tonight. We've got Kent Marts of Explore Scientific, who's going to be telling us about an exciting acquisition that the state of Arkansas has gotten recently. And then at the end, we'll talk about the telescope giveaway. So again, welcome. Again, we're the Memphis Astronomical Society. We're a nonprofit 5013C corporation. Did I say that correctly? C3. 501c3 corporation, which means we're nonprofit. We're an organization that promotes interest and education in astronomy and related sciences. You can see our details. Our website, of course, is memphisastro.org. That's the best way to find us. We have a Facebook group, and we're on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you want to learn more about us, please subscribe to our channel. We've got meetings of our videos from some of our past meetings, as well as other events. So again, if you're not on our email list already and you'd like to be, just go to our website, memphisastro.org, click the join button. Brings up a separate form. You just put your name and your email address in there. And we send out, notices about once a week on average regarding events that are coming up, whether they're meetings like this or observing events or just anything in general. So if you're not on our email list yet and you'd like to be, that's the best way to engage with us. If you are interested in outreach from the Memphis Astronomical Society, having us come out and either do a presentation and or bring our telescopes and show the night sky, there's a form for that on our website as well. Just go to contact, schedule talk and our telescope, fill out as much of your details as you can, and then we'll get you scheduled. Now, the observing portion of this is weather dependent, and you can see what's happening tonight. So a lot of times we have to battle clouds, but if it's clear, we have something scheduled, we'll come on out. So that's the best way to reach out to us if you'd like the services of the Memphis Astronomical Society for outreach. Okay, calendar of events. Again, we're kind of getting into the holiday season, so not a whole lot going on for the next few weeks. We also got a week of rain coming up, so if you got holiday parties scheduled or you got to do some last minute Christmas shopping, next week is going to be a good week for you because there's not a whole lot going on. But on the 17th, we do have Burton's Dark Sky Observing scheduled. We're also scheduled to be at Pinecrest tomorrow night. Again, that's weather pending, so if we're clear, we go. If not, then we'll postpone until next time. And then after that, we got the holidays. So second half of December is typically when we slow down. So, but
December 13th, Strawberry Fields.
Oh, yes, that we don't have that on our calendar. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So, Strawberry Fields is near Holly Springs, Mississippi, and there's a group out there. I think they're elementary kids, and this is in line with the meteor shower coming up. But a few of us are coming out with our telescopes to show them, the night sky as well, whatever's out. So if you're interested in coming out and bringing your telescope, that's Tuesday, December 13, and again, that's near Holly Springs, Mississippi. So we'll send notices out about that as well. Okay, yeah, we had our Village Creek Star Party successfully last month. I do want to thank everybody who brought your telescopes out. We had, I think, about 10 telescopes, 10 plus scopes. So we had plenty of scopes out. The turnout wasn't quite as great as it was in the past, probably because it was colder. We had cold snap in the early part of November. But for those of you who came out and brought your telescopes, thank you very much. And we still had a very good event. So it always helps during any of these kinds of events, especially for Village Creek, which we do in the spring and in the fall, when people bring their scopes out. So we got another one coming up in, I think, April. So yeah, but this was a good event, even though the turnout wasn't as good as it was in the past, but it was nice to, again, we're coming out of the pandemic, so we haven't done this in a while. So yeah, thank you for everyone who brought their telescopes out. And we had an event earlier this month at Holy Rosary School. This was on Monday. You can see I snapped some excellent pictures of that outreach event as well. Actually, I didn't. Showed up and forgot to take pictures. But I want to thank, again, Ann, Mark, Steve, Mylan. We had a scout troop out there, and that was a good event, too. It was a nice night, too. So I just didn't think to take pictures, but I did want to acknowledge that. That happened this past Monday at Holy Rosary School. So that's kind of the gist of the outreach for the past month. And Artemis 1, we had a successful launch on November 16. And Bill Wepner and I did cover this launch live. I think officially at 12:47 a.m. Central is when the rocket lifted off. And we do have this live streamed on our YouTube channel. So if you missed it or you want to see it again, be sure to check that out. But I guess third time is a charm. So it's been pretty exciting to cover this. And you can actually see a picture here taken just a couple of days ago. Artemis 1, of course, is an unmanned moon mission testing out future missions to bring man back to the moon later on in this decade. But this is the Orion space capsule, analogous to the space capsule that brought the Apollo astronauts to the moon 50 years ago. And you can see here a view of the Earth and the moon. In fact, the moon almost eclipsing the Earth from a distant retrograde orbit. So a couple of records were set here on this mission, and Bill's not with us tonight. Otherwise, he'd probably do a better job of explaining this than I would. But everything has gone very successfully so far with this mission. And in a distant retrograde orbit, the spacecraft orbits further away from the moon than any other spacecraft before. It's like 57,000 miles from the moon, I think, when this shot was taken. And it's actually out of that orbit now and going to be making a close encounter with the moon and then slingshotting its way back to the Earth for a splashdown in about a week. So, but another record that was set is Artemis 1 became the furthest spacecraft from Earth that was designed for human beings. The previous record was actually Apollo 13. Artemis broke it. I think it's 264,000 miles away from Earth. Again, no human beings on this one, but future missions will be manned. And Apollo 13 was the previous record holder until Artemis, 264,000 miles from Earth. So it's the most distant man-made spacecraft from Earth. So just a couple of things worth mentioning. And December 11 is the scheduled splashdown, and Bill Wepner and I are planning to do another live stream of this event. And it's also the 50th anniversary of Apollo 17, when they touched down on the moon. And of course, that's the last time that human beings set foot on the moon. So we're planning to do a live stream of kind of the splashdown of Artemis, as well as cover Apollo 17 and maybe the Apollo missions in general. So if you're interested in that, all you got to do is go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook group, and we'll be streaming it live there. So you basically just go to the channel and you'll see it. I'm not sure, we don't have a time yet because we're not sure what time the splashdown is going to be. I'm hoping it'll be later in the day, maybe around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, but we'll find out for sure. And Bill has reached out to some of his peeps at NASA in Houston, so we're hoping to snag some of them to kind of join the conversation, which would be kind of exciting to talk to some guys who are on the Apollo missions. So anyway, we'll send out notices about this, but if you're interested, December 11 is the day. Okay, I want to welcome some of our new members. Michael Lewis, I don't know if I've mentioned you in a previous meeting or not, but if I haven't, I just want to welcome you to the Memphis Astronomical Society. Michael is actually, he lives in Virginia, and he's connected to several different organizations, including AAVSO, the American Association of Variable Star Observers. And Michael has really been helping us with programming, finding speakers. In fact, one of our speakers next spring came to us through Michael, so he's going to be helping us in that regard. So Michael, welcome, officially. Ellie Rose, you were just approved. Welcome to the Memphis Astronomical Society. If you're here, just raise your hand. Okay, you're not here. So this is typically a tradition. When we announce a new member at a meeting, that they're typically not here. So this kind of upholds the tradition. So Bradley Harris. Again, Bradley, welcome. So very good. 3 new members. We'll give you an applause. None of them are here tonight, and that upholds the tradition of not showing up when your name is announced for a meeting. So, all right, and of course, if you're a member, you get access to the Meteorite, which is our newsletter. So be sure you check that out this month. All right, we got to wrap up a little club business here too. Of course, November and December are the nominations and elections for the board of directors. And we closed the nominations officially at the end of last month's meeting. So the December meeting is when we vote. And we have 10 board positions open, and we have 10 nominees, which works out pretty well because they're exactly filled, and we don't have any runoff or any election or anything like that. So basically, what I will do right now, I got to take that out. I'm a permanently interim president. So if anybody wants to replace me, just raise your hand, say, I want the job, and I'll give it to you. It's very simple. So far no one has. So, but anyway. Yes, so at this point in time, what we're going to do is open up the floor, as well as the Zoom, to any members who are on. And if you have any comments or anything you want to say, or if you want to nominate, or if you want to, well, we can't nominate because that's done. But basically, this is where we vote, and it's going to be a vote by acclamation because we have 10 slots and 10 people volunteering. So with that, I officially open it up if anybody has anything to say, including Zoom. You have to unmute yourselves. And Rick, let me know where I'm screwing up on this because typically I butcher this part every year. Am I good?
If that is the case, I move that we, even when I'm on the board, I move that we accept the nominations and elect the officer by acclamation.
Okay, do I hear a second from a member? Second. Merrill? Second. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, there's your board for next year. I will be your president. Freddie Diaz. Thank you, Freddie. Freddie's going to be your VP of programs. Mark Matthews will continue as your VP of observing. Merrill is taking over duties as treasurer. Sarita will continue as secretary. Rick, Ann, and Andrew will continue as directors. Andrew, of course, is director of membership. And we got 2 new board members coming on. Mylan in the back. I don't know if you've seen Mylan, but he's usually the one who shows up at all our observing sessions, takes our telescope, so he's really helped us out in a big way with outreach, including covering me when I can't make it. So huge addition to the board. And then Keith Horde also. So I think we got a good board for you guys next year. I'm excited about the possibilities. So anyway, with that, we officially close, and that's your board for next year. So there we go. All right. Okay, so we are giving away a telescope tonight. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait until the end of the program because there's a couple things I want to say, I want to mention about this, and then we'll announce the person that's been selected. So let's just go ahead and finish the regular portion of the meeting, get into the programming, and then we'll come back to this at the end of the meeting, at the end of the meeting tonight. So, and, okay, astrophotography focus group, I believe we're postponed this month, is that correct? Skip this month. Yeah, we skipped this month. So we have an astrophotography focus group that meets once a month. And this is a good opportunity for you if you're considering getting into this hobby, because the best way to do is just kind of jump in, surround yourself with other people who are doing it. And it's somewhat structured, but also loosely structured in that it's more of a dialogue where you can talk and ask questions and get help from people, as well as offer ideas. So it's not like formally structured like these meetings are. So if you're interested in astrophotography, this is a good opportunity for you. Merrill leads this group. There's actually a form on our website that you can fill out to just kind of give us a general idea of, you know, who you are and what you're looking to get out of it. But it's basically the concept behind it is where teachers and learners get together, so we can get you the mentoring that you need to kind of learn the hobby and experiment with it. That's really what astrophotography is at the end of the day. But anyway, the previous meetings are on our YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up over the holidays, you can do that. Just jump in and watch those. And we're not meeting this month, but next month, January, we'll have another meeting again. So kind of be thinking about that if you're interested. So with that, we're just going to jump right into tonight's program. And we have Kent Marts from Explore Scientific, who's going to be telling a pretty intriguing story about the acquisition of a 1911 Brashear Telescope, which is a 24-inch refractor, not reflector, which means it uses lenses. So it's a pretty sizable scope, and it has a pretty interesting history. So without further ado, I'm not going to get into any verbose introduction because Kent is on tonight and I want to give him time. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Kent, and we're going to broadcast this this is the first time we're having a virtual speaker in front of a live in-person audience. So this will be kind of interesting to see how this goes. But Kent, the floor is yours. Welcome. We're giving you an applause. Take it away.
Thank you. If you'll release your screen sharing to me, I'll get my PowerPoint going. There we go.
There's your audience.
All right. Does that look right?
1 second here. Full screen. Not quite. I'm trying to get it on full screen here. I'll hide the self view. Oh, there we go. All right, you're good to go.
So there we go. It's changing. All right. So, all right. I'm Kent Marts. I work for Explore Scientific. I grew up. My dad loved astronomy, all visual and binoculars. And, you know, I can remember Comet Bennett and Comet West, you know, just dominating the sky, you know, great comets. And if any of you remember those, you could see those well. And I grew up in a little town in Arkansas, Clarksville, and moved to Northwest Arkansas when I was 11. My dad, who died a couple of years ago at 92, didn't buy himself a telescope until he was 67 years old. And all of everything he did was just with the old-fashioned Mark 1R and Mark 1L eyeballs and binoculars and a little bit of photography. But he was a newspaper guy, and I grew up in the business, and I was promoted out of the industry, which is a nice way of saying laid off, in 2017, excuse me. I did heavy structural steel fabrication for a year and then landed in customer service here at Explore Scientific. Who knew an astronomy hobby would turn into a full-time job? And now I'm the dealer manager, specialty dealer manager for 120 dealers for Explore Scientific. I was recruited to join the board of what is now known as NWA Space, which is a nonprofit working to build a science education center in Northwest Arkansas. And, you know, it started out as a planetarium idea, and it's grown into, you know, science education, because every science teacher will tell you kids don't get enough science education. And so we were cooking along, and we ended up getting a hold of finding out about this telescope. All right. So you saw a picture of it close up. If you've never seen a big refractor before, meaning, as he said, it's not got a mirror, it's got lenses, it's a doublet. This is a 24-inch F-18 telescope. So for those of you who can do that math in your head, it's 2 feet in diameter, and its focal length is 36 feet. Okay, so think about a trash can that's a big silver trash can that's 36 feet long. It is a beast of a telescope with the cabinets and the steel foot that you can't see below the observatory floor. the telescope weighs about 55,000 pounds. The telescope tube itself weighs about 3,500 to 4,000 pounds. And I want to say, by the way, thank you for Mylan for asking me to do this. I've known Mylan through Explode Scientific, and he asked me to do this, and I very quickly and happily agreed. So thank you for that. If you look right, can y'all see my cursor?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, if you see right here, that's the finder scope. The finder scope is a 6-inch f12 telescope. And it was in terrible shape. And, you know, this is what the scope looked like when we got it. And that position you saw it in, it had been in that position for 12 years. The university astronomer who used it, I think, parked it to be ready to observe whatever he was going to look at the next night. And he went home and had a heart attack and died, and nobody moved the telescope for 12 years. And the guy in the red shirt here happened to be up at NEAF when we found out about this telescope, and he went by and looked at it and was there when they unlocked the clutches and pulled on it, and it moved. Everything, you know, it would move in DEC and RA. And so they locked it back. As you can see, the telescope here, this is all brass. It's red brass. And you can see the sort of, I like to think, Cold War era clocks and gauges. It was refurbished in the 50s and 60s, and it literally looks like the control cabinets looked like they came straight out of a Minuteman missile site kind of cabinetry. So anyway, here's the guy in the red shirt. He's the one that looked at it. Our mission is our official technical name is Supporting STEM in Space, which is a mouthful. That's why I went with NWA.space. Easier to say. Build a science center, planetarium, science exhibits, things like that. But this is about the telescope, but who we are is an important part of it. We do a whole lot of public outreach. This is at a city festival downtown on the square. The guy in the middle is doing an electricity demonstration. We'll set up telescopes looking west down the street so we can look into the setting sun and do different kinds of visual astronomy. Dixon Street, we'll go down there after a Razorback football game. This is the main drag through campus and off campus. And we've had as many as 1,500 people stop and look through our telescopes. And we generally stop about midnight to 1 o'clock, because after that, all the drunks come out, and they generally don't do well with telescopes. We do a lot of sidewalk astronomy in other places. Here we are at the first Friday. That's the finder scope right there that we had on display before we cleaned it. We had about 150 to 200 man hours in the restoration, and we don't have a picture of this. I need to get a picture of what it looks like today. When Clint, the guy in the red shirt, and I took the lenses out of the finder scope to clean them, we were scared to death and handled them like nitroglycerin. And it was completely dirty. You couldn't see through it because everybody smoked, right? And so it was a chore to get all that paint off. There's 7 layers of paint on it, one of which was a layer of lead paint. It had a milk paint on it, which is a protein-based paint. Getting that stuff to dissolve was difficult, but we got it apart, got the lenses cleaned off, and we didn't separate the lenses when we put them in. And there was a piece of paper that was the airspace for it, and that stuff turned to mush. So we just used pieces of notebook paper and put it back together, put it back together with a focuser, went to collimated, and it was in perfect collimation. And you want to talk about Clint and I feeling like we were the luckiest ducks on earth. It was in perfect collimation. It's a fantastic telescope. The problem is, because it's so long, we can't really use it, because if you put on any kind of a normal tripod and go over about 35 degrees, you have to lay on the ground. And if you get above 45 degrees, you're going to have to dig a hole in the ground to look in, so you can get your head down underneath the eyepiece. We can't put a diagonal on it because the focuser is integral to it. It's sort of like a Newtonian. There's not enough out focus to get it to come to focus. And so it literally has to be on a tripod that's about 8 or 9 feet off the ground to look at things at any kind of a comfortable angle. So it's a very rare time we use that telescope. Anyway, moving on. We do a radiation demonstration where we show, did you know that you can order uranium off the internet? You can. It probably puts you on a watch list somewhere, but hey, it's worth having uranium when you show up, and talk to kids about, radiation. And did you bring your radiation suit with you? And look around and go, yeah, everybody does. They got you. Oh, you got your skin on, So this kid on the right, I really liked it. I noticed he was at one of our events and that we're at. It was a race, and he's got a moon faces shirt on, and that kid hung around for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Different kid right here, pondering fluid dynamics and eclipses. We got eclipses coming up. NWA Space served as the manpower. Explore Scientific decided that, or had this idea with Astronomers Without Borders, to collect some eclipse glasses from the 2017 eclipse and recycle them and send them to South America for an upcoming eclipse. And they publicized it. And so, people showed up. Eclipse glasses started coming in, and 6 million eclipse glasses later, we just quit taking them and started throwing them away. And this is a giant pile. One day, the U.S. Postal Service pulled up, and this is not an exaggeration, with a semi-trailer with pallets on it of eclipse glasses. And at the time this PowerPoint was done, it ended up being over 6 million, estimated 6 million eclipse glasses. And we started out looking at them one by one by one, and having church groups and science groups come in and help out. Was quite a chore. We ended up coming up with a way to identify by look of the manufacturer which ones are good and which ones weren't. By our estimation, there were some knockoff brands that had good glasses, but 20 to 40% of them used non-correct film. And so if it was a specific look, we just chunked them. We didn't even try and mess with them. And I think we ended up processing like 4 million eclipse glasses, and it was quite an undertaking. So, old slide again. We've got like 30 telescopes in libraries around the county, around the 2-county area now. We try to do a lot of women in science stuff. So how do we get the telescope? That's a little bit about the NWA Space. How do we get the telescope? And I will say, this is much more fun if I was there, because I'm a really interactive kind of guy, and I'll stand on tables and move chairs and walk around and sit down next to people and talk. So this is not nearly as fun as I have most of the times. But the International Planetarium Society sent an email out, and the mother of the board chairman and founder of the group happened to get it forwarded to her by somebody. And it was said that we're looking, for a home and for proposals for this telescope we're going to repurpose, and or the building. They're getting rid of the telescope, and it just said a 1911 telescope. And so one of our board members sent off a request for information and got it. And well, Catherine did, and her jaw dropped when she saw what it was, because we were thinking, you know, a telescope, right? We weren't thinking about a 1911 telescope that was ginormous. So we made a proposal, and it was accepted. And it was accepted because all the other proposals wanted the telescope as a museum piece, and our proposal was to restore it and make it a modern go-to telescope. And, you know, using old steampunk technology, because we all know kids, teenagers love big, cool, old things, right? Especially younger kids. So we said, okay, we'll take it. And they said, okay, we need a check for $45,000. And we said, for what? And we said, oh, to pay for the transportation. And we said, we don't have any money. And a couple of days later, Swarthmore College said, okay, we'll pay we'll pay to get it loaded onto the truck, or this is some of the transport. Y'all cover the transport. So we searched around and found a trucking company, that a broker that really reduced the cost. And we were able to get it here for about $5,000 on our end. So we ended up with this big telescope. And here's the cool part. You know how I told you that the finder scope was just translucent? You couldn't even see through it. For 12 years, that telescope had been pointed at the sky in a big old dome telescope, which most of you understand, you know, birds, they're not airtight, they're not bird tight. And our fear was, and there was no lens cap on it. It just been sitting up there, a 2-foot diameter flat spot. And we figured it was going to be covered in bird nests. When we moved the telescope down and looked at it, our jaws dropped. We could use it right now and not clean it. It was astoundingly clean. We're going to clean it at some point before we go back into operation, but that's for another day. So here was an early iteration and sort of a working iteration of what the observatory we're proposing is going to look like. This is a gigantic concrete base. This is a solar telescope. We'll see more about that in a little bit. Here gives you a view of how big that telescope objective is. And have any of you ever been that close to a 24-inch piece of glass before? Maybe one or two of you have, but not very many. It was quite a chore to take all this stuff apart. There's no engineering drawings that were thrown away in the 70s. So we have no engineering drawings, had no idea how the telescope was put together. They hired a crane company out of Philadelphia, which is where Swarthmore College is, to come in and take it apart. And, you know, these guys, big roughneck guys with big old massive arms, used to handling, you know, they'd come in carrying a crescent wrench that weighed 70 pounds, you know, big crescent wrenches. The bolts on the foot that hold it together are about 7 inches across and about 3 inches thick. These things are massive. So here's an interview with the guy who was looking at the telescope. Did y'all hear anything right there? No?
No.
Okay. I forgot to share sound. I'm going to unshare. Hang on. I'm going to stop sharing. I always do that. I'm going to start sharing again. Share sound.
I
Share
just
screen.
sharing, sound sharing.
So I've got to share the sound, but somebody just shared. Somebody is sharing right now. Okay, that's That's the, no, 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 there we go. Share sound. I always forget to share sound. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. You hear that?
Yes.
At the time it was built, erected, saw first light, 1913, it probably, I can't say for sure, was the second largest telescope in the country. The outfit this is going to in Arkansas is called S-Cube, Supporting Science and Space. And it's basically science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and I think, what else do they throw in there to get steam out of it sometimes? As a draw, as a hook, to help students who are interested in the sciences, or might be interested in the sciences, persist as students learning background work in physics, chemistry, mathematics, and even for planetary studies, geology and biology.
Our goal was to build a science center. We wanted something to get people excited, but we didn't have kind of that centerpiece of the science center, of how it was going to work. So when this opportunity came up, the board got together and basically said, well, we've got it now. This is what we build the science center around. There's a lot of outdoor activities in Northwest Arkansas. There's a lot of art now, but there's not really an emphasis on STEM fields in Northwest Arkansas. And so we wanted to focus on that as a way to work with the public and get people educated and excited about STEM opportunities.
They've got to find a site, acquire the land, build a science center, of which part is this observatory. It will no doubt certainly also have a planetarium, because it's a whole lot easier to show people night skies when there are no clouds and no weather, and you can do it in the daytime. It's about time, really, for telescopes like this, which, although they can punch through bad seeing, have done their job. They've spent a century here. They're perfectly capable of doing another century elsewhere in a different environment to a different clientele, and getting people to say, oh my God, when they look through the telescope and, you know, the image of Jupiter shows up as big as the head of somebody who is 10 feet away. So, wow.
Okay, so, and when he says the size of the head of human 10 feet away, that's not an exaggeration. The using, you know, online programs, it will present a massive view because of its great focal length. Using the widest field eyepiece Explore Scientific makes, you'll be able to see about a sixth of the moon. Okay, so think about that. That's the lowest magnification you can get out of this telescope. And it's going to present some fantastic views. Moon and the planets, you know, we're not terrible, you know, Bortle 9, but Bortle 8. I mean, it's tough, but light pollution doesn't matter on planets and the moon. And that's what we're going to target it on. And on good, clear nights, who knows what else we'll see. So here's the 2 feet. The feet of these things, that's each half. One weighs 9,500 pounds and the other weighs 9,000 pounds. Here's the right ascension axis right here to give you a scale of how big that thing is. It's just impossible to sort of get that idea of how big these things are. And during that movie, if you watch that, the time lapse, we were trying to take the tube apart. It comes off, half the tube comes off, and then the other half comes off. We lost 6 hours trying to figure out how this thing was put together. We couldn't get it to come apart. All the screws, all the bolts, all the span rods that tie everything together were gone, but it wouldn't come off. And if you watch, they tried using a pry bar. At one point, they tried using a jackhammer. They thought, well, maybe it's rusted together. And I was up on a scaffold looking. I said, there's a port back over there I can see. And so they moved the lift and opened this port up. And here's a 1/2-inch bolt hidden under this port where it was very difficult to see from anywhere. And guy went in there with a socket set, removed the bolt, and the tube came straight off. And so that taught us something. Remember, we don't have any drawings. So that taught us something that, John Brashear, when he designed this telescope, thought about the situation of somebody taking that stuff apart and not meaning to necessarily, or vandalizing it. And he hid this one bolt that you couldn't see from anywhere else. You couldn't see it from inside the tube. When they opened that portal, you saw a guy looking in there. You couldn't see it from inside there because he hid the thing under a cap. And we've now identified other pieces where there's these portals, and we know that they're there for a specific reason, probably a safety reason. So we moved it and this all happened in a 4-month span, by the way. So we moved it to behind an old chicken plant that's been renovated into a cool, hip, restaurants and beer gardens and stuff like that. The sewer treatment building behind it was not in use, and we stored it there for free for a year and a half until we had to move it. They were going to repurpose it. So you can get an idea of how big the tube is right there. And there's ugly old me and a couple other people as well. This gear is 7 feet in diameter, and this is 9 feet in diameter right here. This is a fun little video. We're trying to take, that's 500 pounds of weights that were on it and to counterbalance other stuff. And we're trying to get it off without hurting ourselves. And I finally got tired of fiddling with it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to hit it with a sledgehammer or a splitting ball. And so I did that. That's the deck arm, by the way. Give you an idea how big the deck arm is. So there we go. Always fun.
Be under that when it fell.
So
Okay.
right here is where the telescope attaches to the deck arm. And that nut was right over here, hidden back in here. Almost, and you just couldn't see it. It's actually down inside of it. But this piece right here weighs 8,000 pounds. It's just crazy how big this stuff is. Here's the push rods and Cold War emblems. We're going to take all that stuff off, keep it in a display. We're going to restore it and put we're going to put the appearance of the brass control rods they had to control things up on the telescope. We're going to put those back because we have some old pictures of it from its dedication. We're going to make it look like it was when it was built, but it's going to be a go-to telescope. But we are going to put a tail rat on it just for the fun of it, right? Because, everybody needs a tail rat on their 24-inch F-18 telescope, right? So let's talk about the building a little bit. We have a good friend of ours, works for PB2 Architect and Engineering. He's an astronomer, Elliot Neal. Some of you may know Elliot. We had talked to him about this, and he was literally sitting around a campfire, and he was watching smoke go around a flagpole, and he saw these swirling shapes, and he transformed that, as you can see in this drawing on the left, and then his sketches. He transformed that idea into these curving lines, sort of mimicking that smoke. And he came up with the first floor. And this is just, pie in the sky stuff, but we really like this design. A conference room, classrooms, a second story, and then a third story of the observatory level. And here is a animation that they did, and I'm going to talk as this goes. I think this has been sped up so it doesn't last as long as it originally did. Here we go. No, that's not the video. Okay, so we talked about a solar telescope, right? So the solar telescope comes down, goes off of this mirror, goes, and this is the grand entry hall, goes back over our heads, reflects off of another mirror, and casts an image about 2 feet in diameter of the sun. So we've engineered the building to be machine as well, right? And so, and anybody can shout out here that wants to. This is in the observatory. What's unique about our observatory? Unmute yourself and shout it out if you see it. Come on, somebody's got to be a taker.
Windows.
Who said that? You're right, windows. Elliot was sitting there going, what? You know, we're trying to build a beautiful structure, and there's going to be people here in the daytime and won't be able to use the telescope potentially. And even if we are using it as a solar telescope, then what? Who cares if the sun's shining in? So half of the observatory is going to be a glass wall with shutters that we can close at night if we want to, right? We're going to be in an urban environment. It's not about perfect night vision. And I just think this is when I saw it, I was like, dude, that's brilliant. And very possibly the only big observatory in the world that has windows in the observatory. Because if you've been to a big observatory, it was always about dark sky. This is not about perfect viewing in a dark sky location. We want to put it, and we have agreement from the city of Lowell. And if you've been to Northwest Arkansas or not, it's Fayetteville, Springdale, Lowell, Rogers, and Bentonville. People said, man, you need to put that out in the national forest somewhere where it's a dark sky site. And we're like, no, we want to put it right in the middle of where everything is so people can come to it. Because if they have to go to it, 30, 50 miles away, it defeats the purpose of a science education center. You want it as close to the kids as you can get it because the kids who need this the worst can afford it the least, right? And so we want it to be on a bus route. We want it to be easily accessible right in the big middle. Again, yeah, this would be cool to look at some faint fuzzies, but this telescope is really about planets. And a little history of the telescope. I meant to look up his name. In the 60s, the astronomer that was using this telescope had what was deemed the first credible evidence of an extraterrestrial planet, right? An exoplanet around Barnard's star. And after research, they said it was caused, his picture's differentiation was caused by some periodic error in the drive mechanism. So he didn't discover them technically. However, we now know that there are exoplanets around Barnard's star. And we know that the telescope is capable of detecting them because we know what the parameters are of the telescope. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility, but we highly doubt it, that he indeed did detect the first exoplanet in the 60s, long before the waterfall of discoveries began. One of our goals is to go out and see if we can prove it, that this telescope could have done it. So it's going to be a whole new mechanism, not the same clock drive. So it's going to be an academic exercise, not a professional exercise. All right. So I believe, is that the video? No. So here's a view from the outside up on the observation deck. We feel like, having star parties up there is going to, weddings up there, have a band up there. There's all sorts of possibilities right there, right? We have also been recipient of some donations. Palomar and Caltech were getting ready to throw away this spectrograph, and they were going to trash it. And somebody found out about it, and Scott told me, Scott Roberts, the founder and president, said, "Hey, Palomar has the spectrograph. Y'all want to go get it?" And so 3 of us loaded up in my pickup truck, drove out there, and it had been used on the 200-inch telescope for 16 nights. And we went out there and picked it up. And we now have a working spectrograph with the grating still in it that we can use on the telescope. And all it cost us was driving out from Northwest Arkansas to Palomar and then driving back, a couple of nights in a hotel. So we've also had some other donations as well, not nearly the scope of that one, though. Here we go. Okay, sorry, this isn't the sped up version. And everything you're going to see, these drawings are scale drawings. So in the coheliostat, you're going down, reflects off the mirror, down the hallway to the entrance doors, and then back to the telescope. These are actual scale drawings. This is exactly how big it is. So that was the sped up version, thankfully. Otherwise, it was a 3-minute video, and that's not so much fun to watch that. The question becomes, I'm going to go ahead and go to the final slide. The question becomes, how much restoration have you done? 0. We continue to search for somebody that's willing to let us have 15 to 20,000 square feet until who knows how long. It costs us $900 to store it. Move it costs between $5,000 and $6,000, and every time we move it, run the risk of breaking it. The lens cell is boxed up and safely stored in a closet at a guy's house with pillows packed in front of it, and then boxes to keep anything from happening to it other than we dread fire. There were some storage companies here in Northwest Arkansas that we approached, secure storage, and we approached them and said, how much will it cost us? And we told them what it was, and they said, well, what's it worth? And we said, well, the estimates we've had anywhere from $1 million to $10 million to fabricate new glass. And they said, yeah, we're not going to store it. They didn't want to have to insure it. We approached Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art and asked them if they would store it with their collection. They talked about it, but ended up declining to do that because, they have stuff that makes that thing look cheap, right? Anyway, so we've talked about maybe letting them display it there. But again, all it takes is one rambunctious kid to throw a toy at it, and the telescope is worthless. So that's the state of where we are. Our name is our URL, NWA.space. That's a website, just like NWA.com. It's NWA.space is our website. You can visit there for a whole lot of more information about us. Our next event, we're going to be doing on the 7th, the moon's going to eclipse Mars, and we're holding a star party, an occultation party at the site in Lowell, where the city has agreed to let us lease 20 acres in perpetuity, effectively. So, questions out there? Somebody has a question.
Now, Peter Van de Kamp was the astronomer in 1960.
I couldn't come up with Peter Van de Kamp, and he's the one that had the what they felt like was a legitimate claim ended up being, proven he was wrong. But Peter Van de Kamp was studying Barnard's star and said he had detected a planet. So it would be cool to prove that, yes, this telescope could have done that, does have the actual ability to do it. So thank you for whoever came up with that tidbit. His name slipped my mind. I meant to look up, and, we bit busy here. So questions?
So, out of curiosity, how are you funding all of these, your plans? Is it a combination of private, local, state, federal? Because I imagine there's opportunities at the federal level to support a lot of what you do.
We're working on applying for a National Science Foundation grant. There are certain families up here with very deep pockets, that discussions are ongoing. If it's their program, and I'm not just talking about the most well-known, there's other well-off families that could write a check for this. The estimate is the building is about $70 million. Now, that was based on pre-COVID 2018, basically 2019, looking at buildings that were being built on the University of Arkansas campus. So we felt like, $70 million, it's probably $100 million now to build the building. And then you're talking about ongoing program funding. We want most, if not all, the programs to be free, because the kids who need it the most can't afford it most times. And we don't want there to be a fee. And, we really work hard to be engaging with the kids. I've had parents, specifically moms, and this has happened 6, 7, 8 times. We'll be at a downtown festival on the square somewhere and doing our thing with electricity or fluid dynamics or radiation or, geology or whatever. And the kid will be sitting there and the mom will go, and we're talking about kids 10, 12 years old, and the mom will go, hey, come on, let's go. I want to go do this. And so I want to stay here. She said, okay, I'll be back in a little while. She'll come back in 30 minutes. Come on, let's go. No, I want to stay here. And, we've had little kids stay at our booth for 3 hours and shut the booth down with us. And the mom finally, when they got to go, because everything's shut down, the mom will go, my kid has only done 2 things this long in his or her life. And those 2 things are play video games and sleep. And he hates school, but why does he want to stay? Because we're showmen. We make it fun. We're interactive. Like I said, I would probably be standing on the table there right now if I was with you and felt the table is sturdy enough. Although the more I eat, the less sturdy tables seem to get, I guess. But, we really try hard to be very engaging and really draw in the kids, get down on our knees and behind the table and look at them in the eye instead of them always looking up at you, and just have a great time with them. And kids respond to that so well. And that kind of education really doesn't happen in either public or private schools. It may happen at home with mama in a homeschool situation, but there's a market for this. We got a graphic out there that we went to every science museum or every planetarium or observatory and put a pin on it, and then had the computer generate a 3-hour drive time map. Right? So you get this map of these puzzle pieces, and if you look at it, there's this big hole, and it's in the map, and we did it around the country. We did it like, didn't do the West Coast and the East Coast or way out in the mountain states. But in the Midwest, there was this big hole right here in Northwest Arkansas. And if you do a 3-hour drive time from Lowell, it's like a matched puzzle piece, to make it that just fits. And so if any of you have not been in Northwest Arkansas recently, probably population of 800,000 by now. The Walton boys have two brothers, Stuart and Tom Walton, have paid for over, I think it's up to 400 miles of mountain biking trails up here. People are moving here from all over the country because of the culture building that's going on. And on the mountain bike trails, this is weird. You think of Moab, Utah as probably the mountain biking capital of the world. It's now, believe it or not, Bentonville, Arkansas. People from Moab vacation here 2 or 3 times a year to come ride the trails here. I've met some people from Canada who come down 4 times a year for a week to ride their bicycles on the mountain biking trails here. It's the weirdest thing. It's weird, but there's a lot going on up here. It's a long way of sidetracking and not answering your question. Fundraising from people, applying for grants, talking to large foundations about what their needs are and how to go about it. And that's where we stand. Frankly, funding is the hardest part of this, because everyone who sees a presentation or sees us do it and we give them our elevator pitch, every one of them, there's been a couple of people, and I'll tell you why, but it's odd. Everybody's like, that's a great idea. We need that here. And we're like, give us $10 a month. That's all. Just pledge $10 a month and have it taken out of your bank account. You'll never miss it, but we can use it. We have quit saying STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. We are intentional in our avoidance of that word, because we would say we're promoting STEM education. And this happened a lot. People would say some version of, why are you doing stem cell research and education? And we're like, huh? No, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And go, no, stem cell. And we realized that there is a fairly significant portion of people, when they hear the word STEM, they hear stem cell, which then means abortion. And so we have intentionally stopped saying stem cell or STEM because of that connection to stem cell. So this is by far the hardest thing, is coming up with $100 million to build the building, and then who knows what kind of a budget to keep it up and running in perpetuity, right? Come on, cat's got your tongue. Somebody's got a question. Freddie, you've been smiling and nodding. You got a question? Come on, give me a question.
It impressed me, the solar telescope. Who designed that telescope?
Elliot Neal designed that telescope. He was sitting around and we were in meetings and bouncing ideas off, and he said, if we had a solar telescope in there, we could really do some cool stuff with it. We're like, yeah, we could do that. And he's like, we could put a coheliostat up on the roof and have it come down and have the hallway be like the tube of the telescope and project it on walls. And we're like, yeah, yeah. And so that's where it came from. A lot of ideas, the glass walls, comes from just sitting around coming up with absolutely stupid ideas, right? A stupid idea I want to implement, and people agree with it. I want to build a replica Stonehenge, so we can do education about how the ancients marked time, right? And literally be able to say, here's how these alignments work and here's why they work. So we've got hundreds and hundreds, and we literally have, it may be 1,000 or more now. We write down, when we have those sessions, every single idea, and we have a database of them, because you never know which one's going to take root and really take off.
Thank you. Very, very good. The design is spectacular.
if we can build it, they will come. You know, we want it to be a landmark. We want it to be a beautiful building. We don't want it to be a big square steel building with no soul. We want this thing to be a work of art unto itself.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Have I taken up my allotted time?
You're good?
Okay.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Mylan, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good. I can't see you, but good to hear you. Come see me sometime again.
I will.
So somebody earlier asked about the Arkansas Dark Sky Festival. Buffalo National River is an international dark sky park. Its averages, I think it's like 3/4 of a mile wide, and it's 150 something miles long. So it's a very narrow ribbon of dark skies. And Bruce McMath from Little Rock, Central Arkansas Astronomical Society spearheaded the effort to get it an IDA park. And the Park Service was all in. They did a massive amount of legwork and inventory. They changed out lights in the bathrooms to amber lights and have education in all the bathrooms. Why are these lights this color? And they enforce turning your lights off at night. You have to turn your lights off at a certain time. So they're, it's we did this twofold to support the park and publicize the International Dark Sky Park designation, and also to support the town of Gilbert, Arkansas, which is wholly within the boundaries of the park, and it's an incorporated town, has a population of 26. How many streetlights do you want to guess the town of Gilbert has? Somebody guess.
2.
How many?
2?
No. That's really close. It's like 20. So, and accompanying Entergy, which I don't know if Memphis, who gets their name, but it's Entergy. They operate Arkansas Nuclear 1 and 2, provide like 2/3 of the electricity in Arkansas, almost all the electricity in Florida, in Louisiana and Mississippi. And they refused to turn, they spent years refusing to turn off the lights. And weirdly, they finally agreed to it, and the city paid for new lights to be put up. But they charged more money than they did for the lights that they owned because of a surcharge. And, there's battles before the Public Service Commission, which is the state body that governs them, to fight that fee because their new full cutoff fixtures, their 2800K lamps, and that project got finished up here just a little while ago. But weirdly, the Park Service, for the Dark Sky Festival, we couldn't put up signs that said observing with an arrow on it. Forbidden from that. We could not give away hot chocolate. Okay. So if you're in a camper over there, you can give away hot chocolate. If you're in a camper right over there, you can set a telescope up and have people come look at it all night long. But if you're part of an event, you can't give away anything. You can't have signage. Like I couldn't say, I can sell you an Explore Scientific telescope. Couldn't do it. Couldn't have any signage promoting any of that. So we're working with them trying to come up with it. And they charged us $2,000 to have a site supervisor there. The site supervisor was a ranger with a gun, right? And it's like astronomers, not the most rowdy crowd on earth, right? And so we're going to meet with the park superintendent next week and try and work through some of these hurdles, because it may move somewhere else if we can't get more flexible about shutting down at precisely 10 o'clock. Right. So anyway, but we are going to have it next year. It's going to be a couple of weeks before the eclipse, the annular eclipse in October.
Are you planning to attend? Are you planning to view the annular eclipse?
Say that again.
Are you planning to view the annular eclipse?
Yes. In fact, Explore Scientific has a location. In a weird coincidence, Catherine All, the founder and chairman of the board, she grew up on a ranch north of Uvalde, Texas, at Leakey, Texas, north of Leakey. And we were in the office looking at it, talking about, well, you know, we're gonna go down to South Texas for both eclipses. The farther south you get, the better chance you have of it being clear. I mean, y'all live in Memphis. You know what April in Arkansas looks like. It's like April in Memphis. And statistically, the farther north you go, the worse it gets. So sure as whatever, if I go to Texas, it's going to be clear here, going to be absolutely dead clear in Maine, right? That's the weird thing about statistics and averages. It doesn't predict a day. It just predicts the average over time. Anyway, we were looking at the maps, and her ancestral ranch, the place we're going to be at for an event for both of them, is about 600 yards off the center line of the annular eclipse and about 2 miles off the center line of the total eclipse. And so Explore Scientific is having 2 star parties there, crossroads of the eclipse's star parties. And so it's going to be a star party. We're not just going to have an eclipse thing, because how much darker of a moon can you get than an eclipse moon, right? And so we're going to have a star party before the eclipse. Come hang out. It's Bortle 2 skies. To the west is good Bortle 1 skies. Come hang out, enjoy a star party after the eclipse is over with. How many of you went to the 2017 eclipse? A lot of you did. How bad was the traffic?
I went to Perryville, Missouri, and we didn't have any traffic.
Okay. So I went to Casper, Wyoming, and a friend of ours who lives in Fort Collins, Colorado, 3.5 hours from Casper. It took her 17 hours to get home because all of Denver, right? All of Denver came there, and people from all over the world came to Casper. It's around Austin. The interstates are not good. In the 2017 eclipse, the interstates really well paralleled the path of the eclipse. So you can move along the eclipse path really well. Look at the eclipse path of the 2024 eclipse and look at the interstates. There's very few parallel interstates to it, especially not close. So you're going to have to stair step to try and get across, right? And that's going to present problems as well. So we're saying, come to Leakey, Texas, come to the crossroads of the eclipse star party and have, enjoy the star party, enjoy the eclipse, enjoy another night of viewing, get up the next day and go home after all the traffic dissipates, and go from there. Now, it's going to be dry camping. It's out in a bull pasture. So it's going to be, tent camping. We're going to have no water available. We're going to have bathrooms available. It has a heliport on it, and it's actually on a runway. But we're going to have, ability to get people in and out. We're going to have security, medical on site, stuff like that. So we're going to South Texas.
And that's open to the general public? That's open to the general public as well?
It's a fee-based event. Obviously, we got to cover our costs. It's hard to predict how many people are going to be there. Astronomical League and Royal Astronomical Society of Canada are partnered with us, and they're going to begin publicizing both of them. I can't remember what the fees are, but if you go to explorescientific.com and search for Crossroads to the Eclipse Star Party or Eclipse, you'll find the page. And we're going to have speakers. I mean, it's going to be not just a star party. It's going to be, we're going to have speakers and all that stuff as well. All right, so I'm gonna let you get on to your meeting. I appreciate this very much. Again, this is a whole lot more fun for you and me when I'm there with you, and I really wish I would have been there, but there was just no way. My wife was prepared to take the day off. She's a kindergarten teacher, but there was just no way we could pull that off. So it is what it is. So pretty good group there. Everybody's social distancing, it looks like. There's a few people way back in the back. Hi, you guys way back in the back. How are y'all doing? So this is really awesome. It's worked very well. I've done a couple of these, and this one is by far the most seamless as far as the technology just happening like we all want it to happen, right? Which is probably because you're at Rhodes College where they have the facilities already set up and really wired for this to happen. So with that, I was going to stay and watch the meeting, but I have a lot of orders to process. Something about Christmas and people buying science stuff and telescopes. I'd rather spend the time with you, but I got to get this done. So if y'all ever need anything, you can reach me at Explore Scientific. Glad to help you out. And this is something that a lot of people know. If the club can become an Explore Scientific dealer, and you can buy products at dealer prices and sell them for whatever you want to sell them at, right? And so you just can't write it down. You have to follow the MAP policy, the minimum advertised price. But that could be a good fundraiser for the club. There are a couple of clubs starting to take advantage of that. The Southern Cross Astronomical Society is a dealer now, and they're selling eyepieces right now. So we're taking our money out of our own pocket to help clubs fundraise in a unique way, because clubs are the lifeblood of this hobby. You folks are the people that can keep people in our hobby. I was talking to a guy literally today, and he was asking all sorts of questions. We were talking, and I said, you need to find an astronomy club. Now, you live on Long Island, right? He said, yeah. And I said, okay, let me look. Click, 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 click. And I said, okay, here's the Long Island Astronomical Society, and they meet at this location. And he went, that's 4 miles from my house. Okay. He didn't know it was there. It's been there for like 30 years. He didn't know it. We need to do a better job of telling people about us. It's hard, and I can tell you this, there are millions of people with telescopes in the United States. I had a customer, we have a go-to system, the PMC8 system, and there was a debate going on about something, and this guy said he lived somewhere, and the guy responded on the message board and said, well, I live there too. And he said, well, I live on Smith Street. He said, well, I live on Smith Street. Both of them have been doing astronomy for more than 10 years. They live 5 houses apart. Okay. Don't keep your hobby a secret. Do your hobby in your front yard, right? Go down on Beale Street and set a telescope up, and hundreds of people will come up to look at Jupiter next weekend when it's going to be clear. Get out there and spread the word that we exist, right? You want more members? Go to where those members are right now. And they're not sitting in this room. They might be in a month or two, but get out there and find ways to do stuff where lots and lots of people are. You'll be amazed at the membership, and we've grown our membership that way. We're a small club. We've got, I think, 40 family units and 65 people. So we're working hard to try and expand that. But anyway, y'all got business to tend to. Enjoy. Who's going to win the scope? Show of hands. Who thinks they're going to win it? Nobody's. Okay, guy in the green shirt. He's going to win it. Let's see if a prediction is right. All right. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it very much, your attention. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much. By the way, before I let you go, I want to let you know that my first eyepiece was a 20 millimeter Explore Scientific. That's my go-to eyepiece. It's kind of my low power.
What degree was it? Do you know?
100 degree.
100 degree. Yeah. I really like the 100 degree 5.5. If none of you have ever looked through a really wide field eyepiece, it's spectacular because Saturn is big. If it's nice, Saturn's big and bright, and it stays in the eyepiece for a long time, even if you don't have good tracking going on, at high power, but at low power, that 100 degree 20, it's like putting your head in a fishbowl and still looking at something, at whatever power, but the expansive sky is just stunning. It makes it easy for your eye can look around and wander. And it's just very relaxing to look at through an eyepiece like that. Very relaxing, but it's also very relaxing for your wallet too. We can lighten the wallet when you have to buy one of those. So
that's a lot cheaper than a Nagler or an Ethos.
And okay, so I'll tell you this. Scott Roberts had no hand in this, but he saw it happen. Al Nagler at the Winter Star Party was looking through a telescope, and he turned away to do something, and somebody switched out an eyepiece with the same focal length with an Explore Scientific eyepiece, and looked through it. Didn't ask a question. Somebody said, "Well, how's the view?" "Oh, this is spectacular. This is a great eyepiece." And then they showed him was looking through an Explore Scientific eyepiece, and Al was like, "Well, I gotta say, it's a pretty good eyepiece." So yeah. Anyway, any other questions? I can talk forever if you haven't noticed. And most of what I say is true. Some of it's not, but most of it is.
Allegedly, right?
That's true. Very allegedly.
Well, we'll let you get back to your Christmas wrapping or order taking.
A Christmas wrapping is good enough. That's about what.
I guess you're one of Santa's helpers this year, huh?
I am Santa's helpers every Christmas. So, which is a cool part to see all these, telescopes going out to kids and families. I just fear that, and I see it happen. You go to a garage sale, and here's a Christmas present you see in June, and they couldn't make it work. They couldn't figure it out. It's like playing the guitar. If you've never played the guitar before, you can't pick up a guitar and play, the Freebird solo tonight or tomorrow night. But if you have somebody helping you figure out which way the eyepiece goes and how to focus and how to point, little things can teach people how to fish, right? And that's where we come in, is to be that mentor for some kid or some adult who gets a telescope for Christmas, and to have it not show up in a garage sale. That's my goal this time of year, is to try and keep those from showing up in a garage sale.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm gone. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Let me share screen here. Okay. Kind of wrapping up here. Can we get lights up on the stage? So again, these are our details. Just kind of refreshing everybody. Website, Facebook group, and of course our YouTube channel. Yeah, just put these on the front here. No, you guys can. Yeah, you can go all the way up if you want. You can get as much light. There you go. So that works. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up here for the year. So this year we've had more people reaching out to us with telescopes to donate to the society. Not sell, donate, just like basically give away. Like, hey, I've got a telescope here, I heard about you guys, and are you interested in taking it? And of course, it's really hard to say no when somebody offers you something for free. So that presents an opportunity. So with that, I typically follow up with anybody who reaches out with something that they want to donate to our society. That said, there's only so much attic space that I have. So, and then storage becomes an issue. So at some point in time, we got to kind of make a decision about what to do with some of these scopes that people are reaching out to us with. So tonight we're going to be giving away a telescope, and I'll announce who that person is. First of all, I do want to say that, hang on a sec. I don't know what happened here. Doesn't matter. All of you who submitted essays, they were all very well written and very thoughtful. And don't think of this as a competition. Think of this as an opportunity, all right? This could be an ongoing thing. So if you don't walk out of here tonight with this scope, that doesn't mean that there aren't other opportunities coming along. In fact, we've got other opportunities already. So if you wrote an essay tonight, you're essentially first in line to be considered when somebody reaches out to us with a scope to donate, even if this is not necessarily the scope that you're going to walk away with. So I want to make that clear. Don't think of this as a competition. Think of this as an opportunity. The fact that you're putting forth the effort to write an essay really helps educate us on what you're looking for. And we're looking for people with intent, who are not just going to pick up a telescope, but actually use it. And we kind of see this now. People buy telescopes thinking this is really cool to get into. They may use it once or twice, and then it ends up in the attic or in the garage somewhere collecting dust, and then it becomes kind of a burden. And we tread lightly here, because if we get into the business of repurposing telescopes, that can be time consuming. But at the same time, there are a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, that either don't want their telescopes or are just looking to sell them, or basically give them away to us. So that started this year. It looks like that's going to continue. Now, the other thing I want to say about telescopes is this is not like an appliance or something where you plug it in and then you're ready to go. You think about it with a television where you got your remote control and you're ready to go. A telescope is a journey. So there's other things to consider when it comes to using a telescope. And that's why we have our new telescope program in January, because we want to kind of not only educate you on the basics, but also give you that one-on-one hands-on mentoring that I think ultimately you're going to need to learn how to use a telescope. So I'll give you an example. Okay, I had this telescope out a couple nights ago because I want to test it out before giving it away. I want to make sure the damn thing works, obviously, right? So now this is a nice scope. It's a 4.5-inch Bushnell reflector. It uses mirrors. It's fairly light, fairly easy to use. So as far as storage and transport, if you want to whip it out one night and have a quick look at, one of the planets, that's great. So, if you want to look at something brighter like the moon or the sun, you just take the smaller lens cap off. Never look at the sun without proper filtering, all right? Make sure you get with us. Don't try to look at the sun on your own. Very important. Never look at the sun unfiltered. So if you look at the sun and you go blind, not because of any advice we gave you, okay? Never look at the sun without getting proper advice on filtering. Or if you want to look at, something brighter, you can take off the full lens cap here. I say that. Here we go. So this is for your planets, your stars, and you can see the mirror down in there. So you got two different ways to take off the lens cap, or not the lens cap, the front cap. And then this is your focuser where your eyepieces go. All that's very simple. Here's the one thing I don't like about this scope. It's going to be very honest, okay? It's got a right angle viewfinder and nothing else. This is the way this telescope came. You're simply going to have to deal with it. But in my opinion, this really cripples you as far as being able to find things efficiently and quickly. So I always recommend getting a Telrad. And this is what I use. This is my go-to. Kent mentioned it. I use this on all of my telescopes, and it's very easy. You just turn it on, and it puts a little target right there. And if you got it properly aligned, it's pretty easy to find things. You can also get, Ann brought one of these. It's a little laser finder. It's like a star finder, I think. Or, of course, you could replace this right angle viewfinder with a straight through viewfinder. But notice if you only have the right angle viewfinder, it can be a little challenging to find stuff. And I'm pretty good. And it took me a little bit to find Jupiter and Sirius the other night with this telescope, because this is the only thing that I had. So all that to say, there's a little bit of legwork to get this scope to a point where it's going to be easy to use for you. We can help you out on that, but I would just recommend coming out to our January meeting, come out to some of our observing sessions, and you know, get the help you need with this telescope. I don't want to take it home tonight, so we are going to announce the person that's been selected. Again, all the essays were good. And again, the ones that were not selected are first in line, and we've got other telescopes coming. So we'll be reaching out to you soon. So again, don't think of this as a competition. Think of this as an opportunity. Got more people reaching out to me, and not all telescopes are created the same. So, you know, really what we're looking to do is match up the right scope with the right person so that we, again, find the right opportunity. So that's kind of the gist of this. But anyway, all of them were well written. All of them were very thoughtful. But tonight I'm happy to announce that this telescope is going to go to Paul Brister. Thank you very much. Come on up here, Paul.
Super excited. I was only joking when I raised my hand. I'm super happy. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, no, super excited.
I owe you eyepieces and a collimator. I forgot to bring it, but I'll get with you.
Perfect, yeah.
And then you can take this home. And again, come out to our January meeting if you'd like, or some of our observing sessions, and we'll give you some hands-on.
So super excited. They came out, so I'm with the Carterville Environmental Commission. They came out summertime. Actually had a great night viewing. I met a bunch of people, so it was great. But long story short, my story goes around. I want to give this to my son. We've had the Smithsonian special since he was about 2. And you know, so this is kind of an upgrade to get him involved.
Well, you know the story the guy was telling about people live 5 houses from each other.
I think
you know you live around the corner
Yes.
from me, and I have a scope out in my front drive all the time. You need to get out of your house and walk around.
I do. You're right. You're right. So, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, Merry Christmas.
And again, this could be an ongoing thing. So for the rest of you, you'll be hearing from us soon. And with that, we're going to wrap up for the year. And 2022 was a pretty good year. We had 7 Zoom meetings. We had 5 in-person meetings. So we're kind of making the transition back now. I think we got some great programming coming for you guys next year, and some other opportunities as well. So we got a new board, somewhat new board. But we're going to work hard to try and keep adding value to you as you continue along this journey. So with that, I just want to thank you guys for coming out. You're free to mingle. We got some snacks over there, or just whatever. And with that, I'll wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and we will see you soon.